before we start, Shalom, you took a strip club in Queens and you shut it down and you turned it, I think, into the Chabad Center. I mean, I went to light a menorah there with you at a party and I was like, I think I might recognize this place. You got to tell me about that story quick before we get started.
You have a good memory. So in 2008, I was in the market. I was buying notes, buying defaulted real estate. And one day I get a call from my banker. He said, Shalom, I know you're buying a bunch of defaulted notes. I have a good one. I said, what's the address? He tells me 248 Rockaway Boulevard, Rosedale, New York. 248 Rockaway Boulevard, Rosedale, New York? No idea what it is. I don't even know where Rosedale is. Do you know where Rosedale is?
No clue.
Okay, me too. Put it in Google. Thank God for Google Maps. I put it in. I see High Heels, the strip club. The strip club that all the Rabbonim, all the rabbis, all the senators, the year before I bought it, they had a massive gathering in the White Shoe with like 400 people, with senators, with congressmen, with people, how they're going to get that billboard down or how they're going to close down that club. Now, all of a sudden, I'm on the phone with the bank, and the bank's offering me to buy the paper, the defaulted note, to buy the strip club.
And they're still operating.
Still operating.
It was just for context, so everyone understands. When you're going from JFK to Far Rockaway or to Long Beach or to Atlantic Beach, everyone knows there's a huge strip club right on the 878 that sits on the right-hand side. What was the name of the place?
High Heels.
Oh, it was called High Heels.
High Heels.
I thought you said you saw High Heels.
No, that's what it's called.
Okay,
High Heels.
Okay, so High Heels, and you're like, everybody knows
I have
this.
a cute story to go with the high heels. Can I say it?
Sure.
Rabbi Walloway, Chabad of the Five Towns, he always tells a wonderful, cute little story that one night he's having one of his annual dinners, and he's having a committee meeting for the dinner people, and this lovely lady, she's, thank God, God bless her, she's got to be now in her late 80s, she said, one of the honorees the night before the dinner said, oh, I don't have any shoes to wear tomorrow night to the dinner. I got to go and buy shoes tomorrow. So this lovely lady who's lived in the Five Towns for the last 30 years says, go to High Heels. The whole meeting just doesn't know what to say. You can't laugh into the lady's face. But yeah, that was just a little cute story.
What do you say, right? They don't sell high heels.
They don't sell high heels.
Okay, one second. So that famous place for years, people in Shar Yashiv in the Five Towns, everyone knows this place.
I'll try to close it down. It's
hard not to look at it because they also owned a billboard where they would advertise, disgusting advertisements also, by the way, very skeevy, low class, just like, that's why it was like such a in your face. So you get the phone call from the bank to buy that note, which, by the way, we're going to have to get into in a minute. 2008, the crash and all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Which we'll get into. But tell me, so what happened?
This was Friday afternoon.
Your heart's racing.
My heart's racing, and I didn't believe I had the opportunity to buy it. I didn't even think. I called up my attorney, who actually became my partner in the deal at the time, who's a big litigator, Alex Novak. And I said, Alex, we have no choice. We have to buy this note. It was a decent number. It wasn't what we'll speak about later, some of the opportunities I had to buy for 12 cents on the dollar. It wasn't anything like that. But it was a number that I could live with, that God willing, if I was able to, reposition the note and get the building back to where it had to be. A lot of people didn't know it. Also had a cargo building attached to it. So it was a strip club and it had offices and some cargo building. So I had that also element to it. So I said, we can take over the building. We'll do okay. One of the biggest opportunities I thought at the time was that they had just closed down one of the clubs. They just closed down the club. So I thought, now's a great time to get in, make sure that nobody reopens the club. Perfect. We had to go down, went down to the bank that day. We had to put together a $100,000 check to go down, secure the note, and we had like the regular 30 days or 45 days to close, whatever it was. Great. I'm happy. The club's closed. We're going to close it down. We're going to reposition the whole center. Everything's great. Monday morning, no exaggeration, I drive by the property. Again, and what do I know about this business? Thank God. No, absolutely nothing. I'm not even in the big retail business like that, the retail real estate like that. It's not really my bread and butter. But I just knew there was an opportunity here, and it was something that had to be done for the community. And that's what I just knew. I just knew that so many senators, so many people have tried to close it down for so many years, and nobody was able to. And now Hashem's giving me a tool. He's giving me a chip. He's giving me a something, whatever you want to say, an opportunity to try and close it down. I'm going to do whatever I can to try. Monday morning, I'm driving down Rockaway Turnpike. I didn't believe my eyes. All of a sudden, I see a massive big sign, reopening soon, a new name, new corporation, looking for waiters, looking for waitresses.
So you bought the note.
Not looking for waiters, looking for waitresses. Sorry.
So you bought the note and thinking, okay, I'll do something, I'll reposition. And suddenly the tenant is activating his right as a tenant.
They obviously brought in somebody else, brought in another tenant, whatever it was, brought in a partner, whatever they were doing. They had everything right. They had a long-term lease. They could do whatever they wanted. Now what am I going to do? Now I'm going to be the mortgagee. I'm going to be the bankers. We're going to be in the bank position of a strip club. Like, what is going on? What did I just do? What did I get my investors in for? Like, this was not what I imagined. Anyway, cut long story short, we started doing all the paperwork. We said, we're just going to go down the foreclosure route, what we had to do anyway. We're going to foreclose on the owner of the real estate because he obviously hadn't paid for a couple of years or longer. And we're going to do that. And at the same time, hopefully, the tenant will get wind that we're foreclosing on the building, and hopefully the tenant will leave on their own or do what they have to do, or something good will happen from this. But we had no idea what was going to happen. Cut long story short, about 4 months later, they'd put in, I believe, I heard over $500,000 to reposition the whole club. So this is how serious they were about, redoing the club and reopening it.
You're not speaking to the tenant the entire time?
Absolutely not. No.
You didn't want to?
I'm
You
the
weren't
banker.
allowed to?
Remember, I'm the banker.
Oh, you're the banker.
I'm the banker dealing with the landlord. I'm trying to find out the landlord who was hiding behind an LLC.
Oh.
So nobody wanted to say who owned that club, who owned that building. So
Shalom, who owned that building?
I can't say right now.
Could you say in a minute?
Possibly. And bottom line is 4 months later, I get a call one morning. I should not have got the call. The landlord should have got the call. I get the call from the New York Police Department to tell me that the club, we just closed down the club last night. What? We closed down the club last night. Just want to let you know, as you're the mortgagee, you're the mortgage holder, and we're just letting you know that we closed down the club. We put padlock, and we secured the club. It's closed for the next 30 days. They have a violation. What is it? They were operating without a liquor license, the new club. Big deal. I spoke to my attorney. He said, big deal. What happens all the time? Slap on the wrist, $5,000 fine, and they'll reopen in 30 days. 30 days later, they go to court. My attorney goes to court. Nobody turns up. New York judge, what do? Adjourn it, of course. Give them another adjournment. And we're sitting there, 30 days later, they come back. Nobody turns up. We never hear about the strip club again. They obviously, I don't know if they got our letter telling them that, whatever money you're putting in, don't put the money in. You're going to get thrown out sooner or later in a few years. Could have taken years for the foreclosure. I'd have to tell you, could have taken us 2 or 3 years. Hashem made it happen in 2 or 3 months. They were close. Yeah.
Wow. And then you took that location, and tell us what you did.
Took that location. I said, you know what? I learned from, I'm a Chabad sir, obviously. And, the Rebbe's message is so important and so clear that we have to bring light into this world. That we know we have one message. We have so much darkness. There's so much darkness out there, but there's so much light. And we know what we were talking about before. We just have to continue the journey of bringing out light. And it was right before Hanukkah. And I said to Rabbi Wallowik, Chabad of the 5 towns, I said, we are making another public menorah. I'm going to put it on that property. And we did it for 2 years until we signed up Dollar Tree. And for 2 years, we had a massive big gathering right on Rockaway Turnpike. I said, we're going to turn this darkness into light. And where did I get that idea from? From when I went to Berlin. We did a Hanukkah menorah lighting and a concert by the Brandenburg Gate. And I just didn't believe it. Thousands of Jews dancing, singing. I'm on this big stage. This was around 15 years ago. And the whole message of that night was where some of the worst atrocities that happened to Jews, the darkness, look at the light. They had the Xmas tree and they had the menorah right there. And we were lighting this massive big menorah. I said, we have to do the same thing here. There's been so much darkness for so many years. We have to bring light. And that's what I did. For a few years, Hashem gave me the opportunity to put the menorah there. I'll just tell you a funny story to that. Then we signed a 10-year lease with Dollar Tree, which of course is amazing tenant and most people's dreams. I'm the only crazy guy. I tried to stick in their lease. I promise you, I'm not exaggerating, that for 8 days a year, we're going to put a menorah outside. They struck it. We tried. I went up to higher levels and higher levels at Dollar Tree. They thought, I'm sure they thought I was absolutely crazy. They said, I'm sorry, the problem was a liability. They said, it's not that we would allow you to do it. It just doesn't work in our, in our establishment. Wow. And I wasn't able to do it. But I always say that, now I think they're actually leaving, and maybe there'll be another window of opportunity. I'm going to bring some lightness again to that place.
That's amazing, by the way. We didn't even get started, and that is amazing. But before we do get started, who was the owner of that building?
None of your business. Now we're talking about things that I remember. I don't know why you're so much on my mind is really a problem. Every time I go on the outer bridge, who do I think about?
On the outer bridge crossing? That bridge from Staten Island?
That's correct. Outer bridge. Who do I think about?
On the outer bridge crossing? That bridge from Staten Island?
That's correct. Now you're really going to get freaked out. You're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. Now I go on the outer bridge a lot because I go back and forward to Long Branch.
Okay.
So these days I do it a lot.
Who do you think of?
Your dad.
What?
Promise you.
Get out of here.
It was a rainy. It's not a happy moment, so I'm not going to tell you it was.
No. So let's get into it.
It was a rainy, cold, depressing, maybe a Tuesday morning, and your dad. You asked me to pick up you and your dad to go to Naftali Zalman's wedding in Chicago. And I will never forget, we picked him up, and of course I knew nothing at the time. You already had an appointment with him in the morning by the hospital in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. And we're going over the bridge, and I'm in my new Jeep Cherokee Limited. And I remember even putting the suitcases in the car and by your house. And we go over the bridge, and I was always like a little rocky on the bridge. I was always like scared with the 2 lanes. It was 2 lanes, right? And he told me, stop worrying. Just stay in the lane. Because he saw that I was nervous to take over the truck, to take over everything. He said, you're doing great. You're absolutely fine. I promise you, I remember it every time. Because I'm overtaking trucks, whatever. I always think, do I want to do it on the bridge? It's so narrow. And he's like, you're fine. And it was a new car for me. And it was a white car, if you remember the Jeep Cherokee. For me, it was a big car coming from the UK. It was a very big car. And I never forget it.
Wow.
Not the happiest, but it was a moment.
You know what? I appreciate that. It's those moments that make up who we are and what we learn from. And I can sit here and talk about my dad like all day long. And I'm so happy you're reminding me that you knew him. So that's so meaningful to me. Welcome back, everybody, to another incredible, growth-oriented, moving, emotional episode of the None of Your Business podcast. I'm using all those phrases because that's what it's felt like lately. And it's been such a amazing growth journey. And we appreciate everyone being here. We're here with a good old friend of mine, Shalom Jacobs. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom. Absolute honor, privilege, pleasure being here.
Thank you.
I'm so happy we're connecting.
We're going to break down who you are in a second. But first, I want to just thank our subscribers, our listeners. Ushi, unfortunately, can't make it here this week. For all the fans, please put it in the comment. Give him some love. We love the feedback. We love everything that is being told to us. As long as it's being told to us directly, we're loving it. So we appreciate it. We're produced, of course, by the Prime Source production team. Shalom is a Chetzi client of ours. So we talked about that for a little. So you could talk about how amazing Prime Source is and the things that we are doing in the hotel industry. We're mostly in the senior care, but we're breaking out, baby. And we're going into hotels and schools, universities, golf resorts. If you're looking to help cut your costs and you want to see what best practice looks like, come to Prime Source, and we will work very hard to earn our keep forever. And that's, I think, part of the discussion today of learning a little bit about you, Shalom. Thanks to Steph and the production team for all the amazing shorts. Thanks, and appreciate everything that's going on behind the scenes. Shalom, you are first and foremost a Chabadsker without a beard.
I thought that's why you have the beard today in my honor.
I grew the beard in your honor. No, it's honor. It's in my father's honor. You are a force to be reckoned with, and we're going to get into so much of it. And first and foremost, I know that I haven't got the privilege of meeting your father more than maybe one time in Israel for a second.
So he's definitely the oldest serving rabbi in Scotland, 56 years.
Amazing.
The Rebbe sent him there. One of the first 50 shluchim to Scotland. We only discovered that a few years ago when we did their 50th dinner. And we realized that they were one of the first 50 shluchim that the Rebbe actually sent out. Today there's 4,500. They were one of the first 50.
I didn't know this 4,500. I mean, there's a lot because I went to that dinner once. What's that dinner called?
The Shluchim Conference.
The Shluchim Conference? I think that's why I met your dad, actually. I remember that now.
Very possible.
And so, look, you're not here because you're Scottish. Although I will tell you that when I was in Miami a few weeks ago and Scotland was playing and I saw all these men with skirts running around, I'm like, oh, there's a bunch of Shaloms running around.
Totally.
Because I do know that you've had that in your life. But really, Shalom, something that I've recognized about you and your journey, and I've been following you a lot lately, is the fact that you're giving back a lot. And I've recognized that in terms of knowing you pretty much my whole life. I know each other since we're 16 years old.
Yep.
And we went to the same school together where we met in Lev Aryeh in Israel. Yep. And shout out to the Lev Aryeh boys. And since then, we've gone through so much together. But one thing we've shared is the transition. And there's so much to talk about there and so much to unfold of, for you at least, coming as a foreigner into our country, and with nothing. I mean, you were below nothing. I mean,
$1,200.
What is it?
$1,200.
$1,200 in your pocket. All right. First of all, have you done a podcast before?
I've done a couple.
In person?
Yeah.
Yeah? How was it?
Great.
Do you speak about your background and who you are? And
a little bit, but it wasn't with someone as close as you, being totally honest. So
okay.
It was very different.
Okay, because I want to break it down. And Ushi is like, you don't have to do so much of history. I like doing the history. So Ushi, sorry, bro. But we're going to talk about a little bit because I want to understand your parents. I want to understand where they came from and who their grandparents were. What made them go to Scotland, of all places in the entire world. A little bit about your Chabad background, but also how you went from having $1,200 in your pocket to really, I mean, dare I call it an empire of a business? And you're doing amazing things. I mean, you're running hotels in Bermuda.
That's what some of the fun stuff.
So I'd like to hear a little bit about your background, Shalom. Tell me a little bit about where your parents are from, where you grew up. How was it to grow up in Scotland as a boy, girl? I'm joking.
A boy in a kilt.
A boy in a kilt. Okay, yeah. We'll call it that. So tell me a little bit about Shalom. Who I know you my whole life, but tell me who you are.
Totally. So my parents are both Baal Shuvas. My dad's from London. My mom's from Manchester. Very unique. My parents both became religious at a very young age, which really, if you think about it today, like, how did that happen? We don't know exactly, but
you're saying it wasn't Chabad?
I'll tell you exactly. So my mom went to the Jewish day school in Manchester called King David, which is still the Jewish day school today, which was a regular government-run Jewish day school. And there was a Chabad rabbi there, Rabbi Safran Olav Shalom, who just passed away a couple of years ago. And he was a rabbi, so he would give the 1 hour a day, whatever it would be, like a regular Jewish day school. And she took a liking to it. And at a very young age, 15, 16 years old, by 18 years old, she was enrolled in Rabbi Duner Olav Shalom's Sem in London, where she was there for 3 years. She lived at the Safran household. Shlomo Simcha Safran, singer. Shlomo Simcha?
No. Oh, Shlomo Simcha. His last name is Safran?
Yeah. Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I had no idea. Love Shlomo Simcha.
So my mom remembers, babysitting for Shlomo Simcha. Yeah, that was exactly the time, the era. So she lived in their house for 3 years, and that's when she came from. Right after that, at 19 years old, she got married to my dad. My dad, a little bit of a different story, came from at 13 years old. He lived in Stamford Hill. Some of the neighbors were already from. It was a very mixed neighborhood in those days. It wasn't like today. And he took a liking to it. And by 13 years old, my dad was enrolled in the Manchester Yeshiva. He was there till he was 16. At 16, he took a boat to Kfar Chabad. He was there for, I believe, 2.5 years. From there, he went to Crown Heights 770, where he learned till he was 23. My dad, not many people know outside of the Chabad world. In the Chabad world, it's pretty well known. My dad was one of the first 3 people to start the tefillin campaign for the Rebbe. Yes, absolutely. And so today he's still rapping everywhere he goes. He has a tefillin with him, and he's rapping tefillin with everybody. I
thought that thing was going on since Har Sinai. I had no idea.
No.
That was a campaign that the Rebbe started in the 60s.
Yep, after the Yom Kippur War.
Really?
Right after.
When he gathered a couple of guys and said, let's do this?
Yes, absolutely.
You know more about that? I'm just so curious.
Yeah, he said that he was telling people that the koyach and that we have of a Jew putting on tefillin, it will help protect the soldiers. And that's why now, when we're reliving this, which we'll talk about more, I'm sure, afterwards, it's October 7th and my journey, if we saw what happened with tefillin in this war, it was something I don't think we would ever believe. that all of a sudden, not just Chabad, but everybody this time got on the bandwagon, everything that the Rebbe said about putting on tefillin, and by us putting on tefillin with every Yid, and every Yid putting on tefillin is going to help the security and the safety of our soldiers. And that's why I think we saw in this war, like we saw tefillin has become the biggest thing. Everywhere you go, someone's giving tefillin, they're putting on tefillin, they're helping buy tefillin for soldiers, for everybody. I mean, it's just for hostages. Look what happened. It just, the whole thing became this mass. Look at Yossi Farrow. I don't have to tell you. I mean, it just blew up. It blew up. The whole thing blew up.
Yeah. Okay.
So yes, my dad was one of the first 3 people. 1969, they were about to go to live in Manchester. They had 3 options. I think it was Manchester, somewhere else in Glasgow. And the Rebbe said, you should go to Glasgow. Jeremy Rosen, who's now the rabbi in somewhere up in New York City, he was also, his father, Koppel Rosen, Oliver Shalom, was the one that founded Carmel College. I don't know if you ever heard of that place. It was one of the only Jewish boarding schools in the UK. Very, very famous place. It closed down in the 90s. Very prestigious school. So he was actually the rabbi at the time in Scotland, in the big shul where I davened for many, many years. And I was brought up in that shul, Gifnock in Newlands Hebrew congregation. And
Gesundheit.
Thank you. And he called Rabbi Vogel in London one day and said, we need a Chabad rabbi to come and help us in this community. In those days, there was about 30,000 Jews living in Scotland. It was an extremely active community. As you probably remember, even when I came to Levari, it was still a very full community. Had everything, Jewish butcher stores, kosher stores. We had 7 big shuls. We had a koilo. We had, of course, Chabad. We had the Jewish Day School. We had Bnei Akiva. We had FZY. We had Habanim. You name it, we had it. Maccabi, everything we had. Unfortunately, it's not the case today. We can talk about that another time. But in those days, it was a very, very, very prominent, active community. And it was a great offer. And my dad said, okay, we're going. 1969, they packed their bags. My mom tells the story. They were married 2 weeks. They literally did not know each other. They went on, I believe, 2 or 3 days. And remember, in those days, Chabad, the 2 or 3 dates were in somebody's living room. Let me just be clear. And my mom tells us a story that one time they were on the bus together in Manchester. They were both living in Manchester at the time. And it was a double-decker bus. And then my dad came on. He didn't even say hi after they were engaged. It was a different time, right?
Wow.
Different time, different realm. He went upstairs, whatever, and that's what happened in those days. It's funny. So that was really my parents' little journey. They went to Scotland. They always say they really did not know each other. And in Scotland, you have to learn, you're going to have to know each other. If not, you're not really going to have much. And they built their whole life, built their family, thank God. And they built this community that they're still with 56 years later. By
the way, what a cool concept in general for the women that marry these Chabad guys. And they come into a marriage not knowing what's in store for them. It's amazing. You're talking about over 4,000 people have done this already.
Correct. So I think today, obviously people go for more than 3 days. It's probably more like 5 or 6 days. But you're correct. The real people,
whether it's 3 or 6, you don't know where you're going to end up in life. It's not like, you think of, okay, I want a house with a white picket fence. No, I want to marry a guy with a beard who's going to take me to a country I don't know and start off a life where who the heck knows what's going to happen.
You are absolutely correct. Let me tell you something. Chabad rabbi, obviously I'm not going to say the name right now, said to me a few years ago, he was in, where Baskin was in Iowa, and he told me that if you want to go to those places and work there, you better have an amazing marriage. You can't have an okay marriage. And I always think of that concept. He said, like, if you live in a regular community, a Jewish community, a frum community, you can go for dinner, you can go here, socialize with other people, see people at shul. If you're going to these places, like you're just saying, you end up in Scotland, you end up somewhere else, you better have a solid marriage.
How do you have a solid marriage? You know the girl for 3 weeks.
You daven.
No, I get it. I guess it's part of the recipe. I mean, does it happen that people go and do shlichus and the marriage doesn't work out and it creates issues?
Seldom, but it's happened.
Right.
It's definitely happened. And
right.
Like you said, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Okay. This is not about the Chabad shlichim, but it's just an interesting point. So you went through a regular normal school. You're saying everything was normal except you wore skirts. So tell us what else was a little different about your upbringing.
So we went to...
How many siblings are you, first of all?
There's 6 of us.
There's 6 of you, all growing up in Scotland together.
Correct.
All holding hands with skirts and dancing around in circles.
And bagpipes.
Oh, and bagpipes. That's true also, right.
I'm going to break it to you. I only wore a kilt one time. But yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, forget it. I have you in my head that every morning you wake up with one.
You and many other people.
What is it, by the way? Can you just tell it to me really quick? I really have no clue.
A kilt is just really, it's a baguette of Scotland. It's just part of their garment that, it just became part of their clothing for like very prestigious events of people going, to the church, they're going to weddings, they're going to, something very fancy. They'll put on their sporran and
there's
kilt.
not many countries that have a lavush like that.
No, absolutely
You go
not.
to India, they have lavush, you know, for weddings, they do gold and they do colors. And
so I'll tell you something really interesting. To this day, the chief rabbi, Jonathan Sachs, over Shalom, and I believe the chief rabbis before that in the UK, gave a complete, not even a heter, gave complete permission for anybody getting married in the shul. For a lot of, the people that want to get married in Scotland, they want to wear a kilt. Absolutely no problem, because Begadish.
Interesting, but only for Scotland, obviously,
only for Scotland.
right?
I'm sorry, you can't do it.
Yeah,
Your kid's
exactly.
wedding in Muncie.
So have rabbis worn...
for the ceremony? No, I've never seen that, no.
But you've seen a chassan wear it?
Oh, many times.
Really?
Yeah, you can look it up online.
You're saying Orthodox Jewish?
Orthodox, I mean...
Yeah, but Jewish, traditional?
Traditional, very traditional, absolutely.
And they're wearing...
Getting married in the Orthodox shul.
Okay, it's respect to the country, I guess.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Yes, it's a very prestigious outfit.
Do you feel, now that you're an American, do you feel more proud to be an American or proud to be Scottish?
Really, I love both. Getting my citizenship, which was just over 8 years ago. It's the day of my son, Ari, my youngest son, Ari's upsharing. That's what I remember.
It took you that long to get citizenship?
So I had a green card for many years and I never pushed it.
Oh.
So I had a 5-year green card, then I got a 10 years. So I never had any reason. Then when the 10-year was expiring, I said, "What am I doing? Let's do this."
Are you familiar with this topic in general? Because I'm not that familiar with
bit,
coming in as a illegal alien
Yeah, I mean, I came in basically as a legal alien.
What was it like for you? So what happened then?
So I had at the time I had a visa from Truro.
Okay, but at 16, your family decided to go to America. Is that what happened?
No. So at 16, I decided that what am I going to do? My friends were all going to Israel. They were going to Gush. They were going to Brovenders. They were going to Habanim. They were going to Bnei Akiva for the year off. All my friends obviously were much more modern than our family. We were like, the most religious, obviously, or one of the most religious us in the Koilo. And I'm really like, where am I going? And I wanted to go with my friends. Obviously, my parents' first choice or my dad's first choice probably would have been to go to Chabad Yeshiva. That wasn't happening. I didn't have a beard. And I didn't feel it was for me. And again, it wasn't even, I look back, I don't even look at it as a rebellious thing. It wasn't something I was exposed to. I always say, to me, I was really exposed to Chabad in our house and the Rebbe. And, my dad brought us to 770 a couple of times when I was 5 years old and then when I was 13 years old. And whatever exposure he could give, he gave us. There was no Instagram. There was no, I don't have to tell you. So it was a different world. So we didn't really understand. I didn't really understand all the, all the history and what Chabad really was all the way. So when I came to deciding yeshiva, I said, no, I want to go to a regular yeshiva. And my parents compromised and I ended up in Levaria. So Levaria, then Medrash Shmuel. So yeah. And after that, my very good friend, if you remember Eli Lutz, I was sitting on the porch one day having a coffee with him on Medrash Shmuel in Shari Chesed. And he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to go back to Manchester University." That was my plan. And I was going to study voice and speech therapy, which if you think back, it's really crazy how things evolve and things happen. And I'm going to study speech and voice therapy. And I said, "What are you going back to England for?" He's like, "You're friendly with all the Americans." And as you remember even from Levaria, most of my friends were Americans. He's like, "Why don't you just come to America?" I'm like, "What am I going to do in America? I don't know anyone. Like, how's it going to work?" Like, "Don't worry, just come." And basically a month later, I got a ticket to come to America. He picks me up from JFK. I'll never forget it, in his little sports car. And it was a rainy day. I never forget. It was Thursday afternoon. And he picks me up. I had $1,200. My parents said, "You want to go? We don't have money to support it, but no problem. Take the money from your bar mitzvah money." That's what I had left. And I took that money and I thought it would last me a few months. Like, $1,200. In those days, it was a lot of money. And he picked me up. He said, "You're going to live by us for the next few weeks." It was before Ben the celebrity, before Ben was born. They were in the 9th month expecting Ben. And I was in Ben's bedroom and on Kings Highway. And he picked me up, took a shower. He said, okay, we're going out for dinner. And we didn't even know this place, Flatbush. You know, when we came to America, there was Crown Heights and there was Borough Park. We didn't even know, like, I'd heard about it, but from the Americans, but from people who were in yeshiva, I didn't know such thing, Flatbush. We had no reason to go. You know, Crown Heights, I think, was so near to Borough Park, and that's where people went. My mom wanted to go shopping a little bit more than Crown Heights. She went to Borough Park. And I remember he took us to Essex. He took me to Essex on Coney, the original Essex on Coney.
What a way to introduce Brooklyn Flatbush to you.
Absolutely. That was Thursday night. We went for dinner. I remember having my dinner over there. Friday, I went for an interview because I had to make money right away. And I needed to find someone that would employ me off the books. Because I obviously, like you said, I had no green card. I had nothing. And I went to a pharmacy on Avenue U. I can't remember the name, but Ellie and I, we always laugh about it. He remembers waiting outside for me. For some reason, I didn't take that job. I don't remember why. But 3 days later, my dad made a call to his good friend, Mendovogo, who had worked for many years for Mayor Eichler in Eichlers. And you remember that part of my life. And about a week later, I was working for Eichlers for about 6 months. And it was right when Chazak came out, the album, I never forget. And Miami Light Up the Nights. It was right then. I say it was one of the biggest selling times for CDs. I can't remember the number, but they say there was record numbers at that time of CDs. That was the time. And I was there for about 6 to 8 months, making $7 an hour. So that was great money. And until we went on to the next venture.
A big shout out to Ellie.
Absolutely.
Also because of the concept that he was able to push his friend and be there for him. And people don't appreciate this enough. When you're spending time in camp or you're spending time in Israel and you're meeting foreigners from all over the world, that's the time when I met you, right? So you're my Scottish friend.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, and I have British friends and I have friends from Mexico and Gibraltar and like, you know, so these are the time to connect with friends, but also really to be there for them. And like, you know, it's nice to know that if I go to Scotland, I have somewhere to stay.
Totally.
But, you know, pushing your friends to go beyond their comfort zone and to really, you know, step up for them is what Ellie did. So really shout out to him. And
I can't agree with you more. And thank you, Ellie. And everything you're saying is so correct. Meaning, like, I do not believe if it wasn't for Ellie, I don't think I would have come. It was such a big move. And like, really, everything here was so big and expensive. I don't have to tell you, like, you know, living in the UK is a whole different lifestyle. And you get away with, you know, so much less. Small cars, small houses, you know, the expectations are so much less. Dress code, everything. It's a whole different lifestyle. And when Ellie said, come, and I'm like, where am I going to stay? And Ellie said, you're going to move into our apartment. And he didn't just say it, he meant it. And I literally lived in his apartment for a month until I moved into his in-laws' house. And I rented their basement for a couple of months.
Wow. And also another thing you said about your father making a phone call for you. And, you know, that's also something that we always like take for granted. Like, you know, the people you know is so important, you know, versus what you know. So you're working at Eichler's, you're making a whopping $7 an hour.
That's right.
I'm loving this story because, you know, the off the books thing is another thing. Very difficult to find jobs today off the books.
Nobody wants to do it.
I want to tell you something, and I'm curious how this makes you feel, because I have a friend of mine who runs a construction business who tells me he doesn't have employees. And he's saying to me the employees are afraid to come out because their families are actually getting arrested and deported. And him and I were having this discussion around the Shabbos table. And before we knew it, everyone started participating in the conversation and saying, oh, it's happening to me also. I heard about it. Am I living under a rock? Is this happening in front of us where everybody's being thrown out and the business world is going to be affected by it more than just your cleaning people? Right? In other words, like
1,000% was being affected by it. Look, I just tell you, even from our hotels that we were just talking about before in Alabama, when we bought the hotels a bunch of years ago, I think it was we were paying either $8 or $9 an hour for the cleaning help. Today, I believe it's $13 or $14. I mean, just look at it percentage-wise. That's the only reason I'm giving you that example.
Right.
Now, times that by everything. Your business, my business, everyone. And the people are not there. We don't have the same amount of people to go after.
Right. So it's going to affect, you're saying, staffing in terms of all different businesses. It is already affecting.
Not even a question.
Right. So do you remember when Trump came to Muncie during Shavuos, whatever it is? Every single cleaning lady in Muncie did not go to work that day. They were all hiding out in their houses.
Right. They were
all
nervous.
scared
right.
that
this is something that, like, I don't know. It's like
mixed feelings.
Right.
I'm with you.
Especially if, for someone like you, though, you came here, you just got your visa 8 years ago, or not your visa,
my citizenship.
Your citizenship. Yeah. Is it something that you waited your whole life to get type of thing? Like, since 16 years old?
No, like you said, I could have got it earlier. I just didn't. My citizenship. Like I said, I had my green card. I got my green card. I got my work visa, my green card right after I got engaged to Pessy in 2003. Like she always says, the reason I married her. But before that, I was really, on a student visa, different yeshivas that helped me out. That's how I was here.
Right. So I'm saying also, like, back then, people took more risks of paying people cash and whatever. You can't find that anymore. It's difficult. I'm trying to help people that are from Israel or from London, and they're in America here, not legally, and I'm nervous for them in general. So
you're talking about the money aspect, and I think you're absolutely correct. And I'm saying the exact same thing about if somebody comes, and says, I'm from Scotland and I want to move in your house for a month. Are you going to just have them move in tomorrow just because you met them a few times in yeshiva? So I'm totally with you. I think, unfortunately, I think the world has changed so much. And, we have our barriers up for the right or the wrong because of this crazy world we live in today. I don't know. I think we have to really just look at everyone individually and try and break it down exactly what we said, exactly what Eli Lutz did that morning when he said to me, come to America. You shouldn't go back to the UK. And he looked at me in my eyes and he meant it. And that's why I'm here.
Right. So look at each one individually. Okay, I hear that. Eichler's, $7 an hour. Continue your journey. I need to hear how you went from that to owning hotels. I'm sorry. Owning and operating hotels. By the way, it's funny as a kid, my son, their friends, they're talking about what businesses to go into. People don't even talk about owning and operating hotels. It's like so far beyond our imagination.
Can I tell you why?
Go ahead. Why you gonna say?
One guess. Go for it.
It's difficult.
It's difficult. It's exactly what you just said. It's work. It's work. I'd have to tell you. Jews in general, we like an easy ride if we can. And thank God, apartment buildings, commercial leases, think about it. You put in a CVS, you get a 20-year triple net lease, you refinance the property, you go to sleep, you take out your money, you get your distribution every month. God willing, apart from the craziness we had a few years with COVID, but God willing, it's a nice ride, right? I'd have to tell you, from the nursing homes, it's the same thing. Exact same thing I always say, same thing with hotels. It's work. It's daily work. I actually like that excitement. That's why I put a few hotels in our portfolio. It's not the main thing we do.
Well, let's get into that. So you're in Eichler's. Take me quickly through that process of your job. I know you went and did camera sales for a while. Absolutely. So just tell me through that journey of how did it go from that to owning a hotel? That's what I'd like to know.
Good. So right after Eichler's, I went to work for Barry Septimus in the Five Towns. And he had a call center, and those times I had a nice Scottish accent. So it actually
pay extra for that.
It did very well with calls on the phone, and we were basically helping people sell this package for about $800 that we're helping people buy their first home with no money down. I don't know how it worked. I don't know to this day. We were just doing the cold calling. We did really well with that, sales wise. Unfortunately, the AG came and closed it down, the business, one day on one of the road trips. Down in, I can't remember which state it was. Every weekend they would go to a different state. Right after that, I had to go back to the drawing board. Our good friend Eli Sorotskin, I had an apartment with him at the time on Nielsen Street. Yeah, on Nielsen Street.
Yep.
And we're hanging out a little bit by Shar Yashiv in the mornings, just getting some breakfast and going to a shir for an hour just to show our face. But it was a great place to hang, and we knew a lot of the guys from, as you know, from Levari and from Israel.
Were you in the shidduch world at this point? I'm just curious because coming here with nobody, trying to get married. I mean,
so it's so funny you say it. I really wasn't big in the shidduch world at that point, apart from your dad, Oliver Shalom, who set me up on my first official shidduch date. And I probably shouldn't say to who, so we're not going to go there. You probably remember too. I was at your house for Shabbos.
Yeah.
It was one of the first Shabbosim I was here, and you said you're coming for Shabbos, and we're in the house. And that Friday night, your dad said, "I have the perfect shidduch for you." And I was 21 years old, and I really wasn't ready to date, whatever. I didn't even have a car. I'm remembering now. I didn't even have a car. I didn't even drive. What am I saying? I didn't even know how to drive. I literally been here 2 or 3 months.
So what'd you do?
Her dad drove us.
Stop it. You're lying. Her dad drove you on the date? That's great.
but you don't understand what I'm telling you.
You have to
This
explain
wasn't
it.
a 3-week situation looking into each other, blah, blah, blah. Your dad saying we're going out.
You trusted him.
That was it. And
Sure.
they obviously trusted him.
Sure.
I mean, I was this kid from,
Yeah.
I just spent Shabbos with him. We'd
Yeah.
be singing,
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
everything we had done on Shabbos. Might see Shabbos in the winter. I'm going out with this girl.
Okay.
He said, the dad is going to drive you. He drove us to some hotel downtown Brooklyn. MS of MS.
Michael, your father just wanted to wear a kilt to the wedding. That's it.
The fact that a father drove his daughter on a date and dropped you off at a hotel.
It's what happened. It's
a great
exactly
story. It's a
what
great
happened.
story.
I remember we got home. Did
Okay,
they pick us
that
up?
was a good date?
Or did we get a cab?
Was it a good date?
Very nice date.
Okay. Father
Yeah.
drove you back?
That I don't remember. I don't remember that part. He absolutely drove us there.
Okay. So you were in the shidduch world, though. You were in the shidduch world.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's it.
Your
Yeah.
dad put me in.
My dad put you in, and that's it. And you were ready to. At that point, you were at Eichler's then? No, you were already selling
I
something else.
don't remember.
Okay, but you were
Yeah.
selling stuff.
Yes,
That's
yes.
what you were in the world of selling.
Yes.
Eichler's retail, call center behind the scenes.
Yes.
You were using your real suave voice and your accent, and you were selling anything that anyone would put in front of you. Then what happened?
We were both very similar like that. We
Yeah.
both had a drive. We both had to make money.
That's
and we knew
right.
one of the only ways to make money is sales.
That's it.
Made the type of money.
Networking, selling. Let
Yes.
them just trust us.
Yes.
Once they trust us, we can sell anything.
Yes,
And
we
that's
both
really-
didn't have it in us. We wanted to make $600-700 a week.
Right.
Which, if you remember that time, the guys that were making that, the stable guys, was great. They were able to rent their apartment and get married and have their car and have their phone. But it wasn't. That's not what me and you strived for.
Right. Right.
Um,
That's true. You're hitting the essence of it. We wanted
Absolutely.
more. We wanted
Always.
to push more and put in 60 hours, 70 hours, 80 hours, and just, yeah. So where did you go from there?
After that, my very good friend, who you're going to start laughing, Eli Natan Biton, Jack Biton.
Oh.
Jack and I knew each other from Israel. Jack was in Ner Yaakov. I was in Levaria, Medrash, and we met a bunch of times. We hung out a lot. We were very good friends. And Jack, now Rabbi Eli Natan, said, when you come to America, here's my number. And I said, okay. I called Jack. Jack picks me up in his white Maxima, his Nissan Maxima. Do you remember what a car that was?
Oh, that was
With
the
those seat
hottest.
belts that went automatic, like on you, like it was crazy. I never forget it. And the week after, I said, Eli Natan, I need a job. Like, this is not a joke. The difference with me is I didn't have weeks. I had days to get back into the workforce to get another job. To survive. That's just what it was. And Eli Natan said, I have a good friend, same thing, sales in the electronics. And he said, okay, you come for an interview. I went down 65th Street and 23rd Avenue. You remember where we worked? Photographic.
Who's the first person you met there?
Avi Hula.
It was Avi. Yeah.
Avi. It was either Avi or Bruchi Kerry.
Yeah.
Who was Bruchi Kerry was the owner at the time, with Joe Saeda. And
What a group.
absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Powerful.
Mikey Heliwa. I mean, we had a real great group at that time. And Brooklyn and Joe said, you're hired. Joe really took a liking to me. Again, the accent. And he said, you're going to be great at this. And I didn't believe the type of money that you could actually make, like coming, like you said, from $7 an hour and the next thing. And thank God I was able, those weeks I was walking out $1,500, $2,000 a week.
Yes.
Which I don't have to tell you in those days.
What were you
Today's a lot of
selling?
money.
What were you selling?
Electronics. But
What was the main thing?
high-end cameras.
What was the money maker? Bottom line. What was the real item you were selling?
Of course, it was all the accessories, like every business. Yeah, it was accessories. So the
Meaning
camera
you have
bags,
the loss leader of the camera itself,
Exactly.
and then the batteries and the lenses, and that's where the B&H's of the world and
warranties.
the warranties.
Warranties was the big one. Yeah, and that's really what it was. And you know, we were really up there. You know, the blue-eyed boy, of course, was B&H, but everybody else we were competing against. You know, Abe's the Main, Focus, and you know, that's really we were there. After a few months, they had a situation that they had to liquidate the business, Joe and Bruchi, and they both went their own ways in different things. And Shmuel Carey, you know, one of my best friends today, still to this day, he told Bruchi, we have to replicate this business. We have to do it again. We can't just let it go. We're going to take the top salesman. You're going to take Shalom. You're going to take Avi. You're coming. And then we took Moshe Schwartz, and we did it. 2 months later, we started at Avi's apartment. He had just got married to Naomi Oliver Shalom. Can't believe I'm saying Oliver Shalom, but yep. And we opened Broadway Photo on Avenue L, right across the street from Aguda. We took a storefront, and we just loaded it up with merchandise. We all put in $25,000. Don't ask how I got the $25,000 because I did not have the $25,000, but through the kindness of some people that gave me some loans, thank God I was able to put the $25,000 together. Shmuel was very, very adamant. I said, I'll take last year's. To me, I said, you know what, I'll put in $10,000 and I'll take less of the partnership. What's the big deal? And Shmuel said, absolutely not. You're getting your full partnership. He says, who can you call for money? And again, we don't come from that world at all. And I said, the only person that I know that could maybe help me is my uncle, who's still one of my closest people in the world, my Uncle Jan Shulman, who's, thank God, 86 years old, who lives in Manchester in Israel. We just made Aliyah a few weeks ago to Israel. Well done, Uncle Jan. And he said, call him. I said, okay. And I thought I would call him and ask him for $2,000, $3,000 towards it. He said, call him. And he sat over my shoulder. And he said, no, you asking for $10,000. He said, the worst case, I'll tell you I don't have $10,000 I can borrow you. I'll lend you $5,000. And he said, no problem. Send me the wiring information. And I always say, like, to have that belief and to have that, not trust, to believe in me. To believe in me for $10,000, in the 90s, a guy that just come from Scotland. I didn't have a green card. Didn't even have a work permit at the time. Going into a business that we had been in for 3 or 4 months, that I'd been a salesman in, starting this brand new business with 3 partners. And he said, no problem. He believed in me. And he's believed in me ever since. So thank you, Uncle Jan.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That was $10,000. And the rest we put together. My dad said, let me help you put a few $1,000s that he was able to help me on the credit card. He said, use the credit card for a couple of $1,000s, whatever it was. Promise you.
Scraped everything you can to make this work. Good for you.
And what you just said before, because Shmuel said no. Like I said, what would have, me coming from Scotland with absolutely nothing, if I would have owned 10% of the business, would it have been so bad? Thank God you saw how well the business did years later. It would have still been amazing. But Shmuel said, no, everyone has to be, you're all working. You have to be equal. And looking back now, after being in so many partnerships, what you're talking about and how many we've all been through, partnerships or just partnerships in buildings or with partners, you see what happens when so many partnerships, as you said, fall apart because people drift apart because people are not doing the same. People are not doing the same work. Then they don't have the same alignment. And when you don't have the same alignment, when you're not aligned the same, it doesn't work. So when you're all put in the same type of money and you're all doing the same type of work, it usually works. If one guy's bringing the money and one guy's doing the work, it usually works. But when things fall apart, and the guy that's bringing the money, all of a sudden he can't bring the money anymore, things usually fall apart.
I find, great points. And I do find, and I want to continue this journey of yours, but I do find also with partnerships a lot is that, money is king until you don't need the money. And I see that happen a lot with partnerships. And I'm mediating a lot of different challenges amongst people. And I can tell you historically that when someone needs the money, money is king. And it's like, okay, let's do this business 50-50. I need the money. Give me the money. Let's go into it tomorrow. They go into it. And then suddenly 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, the person that put in the $100,000 or the $200,000, it hasn't put in anything, not money, not effort, not a hello, not. So what happens in that scenario? I'm curious in your experience and everything that you went through. And so many people are going to be listening to this and going through these types of structures or history or challenges. What do we tell people? What's the right way to do these kind of things?
That I think every couple of years, you have to really sit down and make sure that you're aligned and you're on the same agenda and that you're both bringing something to the table. Because when you're both not bringing something to the table, that's when we know it, we see it all the time, it falls apart.
Right. So that's why you triggered me by saying the word aligned. You have to be aligned. And that's a really good way to put it because, and now you're saying something also in discussion, but I think almost it's important to that people take it upon themselves to do this annually, like as part of the process, as part of the agreement. Okay, I'm going to give you the money, you're going to be the operator, but every year we need to make sure we're aligned. But the thing is, I find that people, when they need the money so desperately, they say, okay, just give me the money, you'll be my partner forever, and that's it. This is something that you need to think about when going into relationships. So all those listeners that are thinking about going into partnerships or business or relationships, or you got to be aligned from day one. You got to look ahead. You got to talk about buyout options. You got to talk about challenges. You got to talk about who the third party is going to be if there's a problem that comes up. And these are things that is important to talk about. So I was curious your thoughts on it. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to really talk about it and you have to keep like you said, reinventing every 2-3 years and making sure the alignments are still the same.
I don't think it's anything different for an employee to an employer, to be honest with you.
It's not.
It's the best advice that I've ever heard before about an employee is give me a path to get to where I want to get to.
Yes.
When you're talking to the employer. This is also something that when you do your annual reviews, every company I know does annual reviews. That's ABCs, right? So the employee should feel as an advantage to themselves as well. I'm getting my annual review. And making sure that you're aligned with the employer and the employer is aligned with you. I think it's just an opportunity to mention it. So your Broadway photo, you're rocking and rolling. Avi Hulu, kicking butt.
Still going.
You're there, right? I'll never forget. I mean, I have such great memories with all of you, and I could talk about that forever, but I don't want to interrupt it too much. So continue. You're building up the business. You're making money. It's finally coming in.
Real.
After how long did you look in your bank account and say, holy crap, this is doing well?
Probably around after 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
We did it quick. Thank
Wow.
God. And it was really the start of the internet. So it was right after, I believe it was Xmas 2000. We had an absolute crazy Xmas, and it was right at the
You don't
first
say
times.
Christmas?
I try not to.
Okay.
Just it was something I was brought up with.
Okay,
So,
cool. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Continue.
So thank you. Thanks for mentioning that. And all of a sudden, we look at the fax machine in those days, and all of a sudden we walk in on a Monday morning, and all of a sudden we have all these orders. So usually it was before that, it was all phone calls. Now, if you knew a lot about or anything about the camera business, the way it was working, we weren't selling the $200-$300 cameras. We were selling probably the cheapest camera was about $600 up to around $10,000. So it was really for the professional photographers. That's really what we were. That's where the money was. Because like you said, we were talking about earlier, the accessories, right? So a lot of it was when you buy the big cameras, the lens, the bags, the warranties, everything we spoke about. And most of our people that were calling us were not from New York. So it was really people from small states, small cities that didn't have a professional camera store like B&H or Focus or any of those Ipsamane. So what would they do? They would buy the weekly camera magazine. Like in those days, you had magazines for everything, for fishing, for sports, everything. You had the camera magazine. And we would all take a page, 2 pages of ads. And we'd all, of course, compete against each other. You were selling the camera $899, I was $749, you was $849. I was giving you a $200 rebate, you were giving a $500 rebate. It was all irrelevant. It was just whatever we had to do to get the call, right? And once you got the call, you knew they were going to call 3 other people afterwards because it was a lot of money for these guys. So we were doing that, and then, like I said, all of a sudden it was Xmas, and it was the first year that really the internet blew up. And instead of always just taking the calls, now we're also getting orders through the fax machine. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Nobody believed it. Now you don't have to answer the call. Now you don't have to, make as many calls. We would take all the calls and we'd try and call them back and try and upsell them on more stuff. But the actual essence of the sale was coming in now through this thing called the internet, right? Through the websites. We did that for about another year until really one day I don't even know what it was. I had a feeling. You know when you have a feeling? I said, is this really something I want to do for the rest of my life? I said, why did I really do this? What we were talking about earlier. I did this. Survival. I did this because I wanted to make money. So I really want to be selling all these accessories. I really want to be selling these cameras and upselling everything, and if the guy really doesn't end up buying all the accessories, I'm upset. Sometimes we weren't even able to complete the sale. It didn't feel good. And the last few months that I was in the business, what was my job? I was in customer service. So when a lot of people would get the camera and they were upset, they didn't like something about it, I had to deal with all that. And what do you have to do in customer service? You have to, somebody, I don't want to call it lie, because we didn't lie. You have to stretch the truth, right? And so I came home one day and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, I'm doing this for 12, 14 hours a day. Thank God I'm making money. And after 120, this is honestly the way I was thinking. I was 21 years old. I'm going to go up there and say, what did you do today? I had to sit and tell people a bunch of stories. Yes, this is the camera you ordered. It's great. It isn't great. Whatever the story may be. I said, I don't want to do this. I don't even know why I got this feeling. And I approached Shmuel. And 2 days later, I approached Avi and the partners. We had a partners meeting. And they agreed to buy me out from my, for a number. In those days, I never dreamt would ever, be a number that I would ever hear. And I said, done. I think it was a payment plan over 2 months or something like that. And bye-bye cameras. That was it. And that was, I look at it, it was just an avenue through my life to get me from, like you said, from $7 an hour to now having a base to actually do something with my life that I wanted to do.
You didn't know what that was yet?
I had no idea.
You're single or married at this point?
I was single.
You're still single?
I was single.
So you're single, you just got a nice paycheck in today's market. What was that amount of money?
It had to be equivalent to, I never like talking about figures. So let's just say I definitely would have been able to buy a couple of houses. So put it like that. And, in those days, starter houses. So it was real money.
Got it.
It was a real base.
Where are these houses? In Lakewood or I'm joking.
It's so crazy how things stay in your mind. I still look at it as the 30s, those little houses in the 30s.
Yeah.
Those type
of
90s.
Houses.
That's what I was looking
at. So you
at.
have enough money to buy several houses or let's say a multifamily or two or go into a business.
Start something.
You're single.
It wasn't a lot and it wasn't a little.
I got it. I understand.
It was enough to start.
This is very interesting to me because now you're at a point where a lot of people are in their life also is where they have money and they don't know what to do with it. And that's an interesting discussion. I mean, of course, there's always talking about not having and the challenges.
You're absolutely right.
Let's put that on the side for a second. Let's talk now about the people that have money and you want to figure out, what do I do with it for my income? What do I do with it for my kids? What do I do with it for generations, right? This is the mindset that you're going through. Take me through that. I want to hear all about it. And I want to hear how it affected who you were marrying and how that happened.
You're going to laugh. So my friend Shmuel says to me, okay, so what are you going to do? He was saying maybe open a liquor store because he had a liquor store years before. He was thinking businesses that actually make money that you can actually, will do well. And now we have a base. And said to me and Bruchi, by the way, when I was leaving, so Baruch Carey at the same time said, if Shalom's leaving, I'm leaving. So they ended up buying us both out the same day. That was just a side note. He said, what are you going to do? So I said, look, I always loved real estate. I'd watched Shmuel a little bit, buy some real estate, etc. I'd known a little bit what he had done because I'd got close to him over those couple of years. I said, I definitely want to be in real estate on some level. What did that mean? I had absolutely no clue. But one thing I loved about real estate, and it's still, I tell young people today, and obviously there's no guarantees, everything's from Hashem and everything's mazel. But it was such a rat race, and you probably know from your business with cameras, that literally we were, every month you either made it or you didn't make it. Like I say, if we would, God forbid, put the wrong amounts and we would advertise not good numbers, that you beat me to it and you were much more competitive that month on 5 or 6 of the cameras, we really didn't get calls that month. So every month was a make or break. And we didn't know, who was going to come in and undercut us. You never knew who was going to, we had at some points, we did have collaborations. We all said, we're going to try and work together, but you know the way it works. And, Hasidim, Syrians, Ashkenaz, it wasn't easy, not easy at all. And I always said to myself, like, although it was amazing today, I didn't know what it was going to be tomorrow. I really didn't. And I had no idea that, that.
Just to clarify, so overall, the business was successful, but on a month-to-month basis, there was a lot of angst, not knowing, make it or got
uncertainties.
Okay, got it.
Absolutely.
And it was a battle between so many different, people in the business and people who have, more tenacity than others to do things that you wouldn't do. Okay, so you have 2 people, you're 2 of you, and you're both thinking what business to go into?
Yeah. Right. By the time we were living together, we had the apartment together.
So you knew you wanted to do something together?
Possibly together.
Possibly, right. Yeah. Okay.
And we just come from, being in business
together.
You're
evaluating different businesses. Okay, continue.
So Shmuel said, okay, come shadow me a little bit and see what you think of real estate. He was partners at the time with Svi Kaufman, and they were on Coney Island Avenue. And we did that. We did that for a while. We had a little office upstairs. We were, going to see some of their construction sites. And
so what'd you do? What?
Just shadowing them.
Just watching. Okay.
Looking at some of the stuff on the auction, some of the smaller stuff that they weren't looking at. He was showing us, some tips. What
learning about the world of real estate, which is another good piece of advice for people.
Big time.
Yeah. You want to learn about an industry, mentor, take somebody and just sit and watch them for a few weeks.
Exactly. But remember, you have to have I was fortunate at that time. I had the staying power. I was able to, last a few months without making any money.
Right.
And like I said, a couple of years earlier, that wasn't an option.
You know who has that? Young people.
Yes.
Young people who are still living at home, they have the opportunity to intern and just watch people. Pick an industry that you enjoy and watch them for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5
weeks. And not everyone has to be in cash advance, and not everyone has to make $1 million in a week. I always tell everyone, people look at people in real estate and nursing homes, as you know, and say, wow, 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 wow. But as I said, as I learned very early on, real estate, I always tell everyone it's a long game. You need 7 to 10 years. Can you make money before that? Refinances, sell, flips. Mazo, you can make money with anything. Absolutely. But look at all the real estate people. It's a long game, 7 to 10 years. Go through a cycle. Or every 7 years, usually rents double, based on statistics in the USA. Thank God. You can refinance, get through it. If you can get through a 7 to 10 year, God willing, and you're not too over leveraged, it should work out.
I didn't know that statistic. Thank you for sharing that with me, by the way. Every 7 years, your rent basically doubles. So essentially what happens is if you buy a property that it's like a 2 cap rate or a 4 cap rate, you can imagine that in 7 years, it's going to jump to...
based on markets and
I
stuff
understand.
like that. But
okay.
if you look at like the Section 8 numbers in New York and over the last 20 years, you'll see that.
Interesting. Okay. So you're shadowing, you're learning, continue.
Yes. And one thing I said is I'm definitely taking a little percentage of the money. It wasn't so little. It was actually a decent chunk of the money. And I said, I'm making my music. Well, you said it was always my dream. In Yeshiva, I got more exposure to it. Kumsitz is meeting some of the singers, stuff that as a kid, I always dreamed that meeting Mordechai and David, meeting Avram Fried. I met Avram Fried when I was in Crown Heights as a kid. I saw a beautiful picture with him when I was like 13 years old. But that was it. That was our only exposure. Went to a couple of concerts in London, but really in Israel was really my exposure to it. And I said, absolutely. My dad also helped me go through Chazanah school. He was very particularly really wanted me to do it. He knew that was always something in my heart. And if you remember, I went to Chazanah school with Naftali Hirschtig, Oliver Shalom. Can't believe he's gone. And I learned by the Jerusalem Cantorial School, Eliyafi, and all the boys. And that was a big part of my life also. So I said, yeah, I want to make an album. And it was a lot of money. I don't have to tell you it's a lot of money. Today, it was a lot of money in those days.
What are we talking about? How much is an album?
$50,000 in those days.
Wow.
That's what it was. Yeah.
$50,000 in those days?
In those days.
So that means equivalent to now of...
Today, I don't even know. Because
right, but
you don't really making albums today.
No, I know. But monetary-wise, financially-wise, it's equivalent to, let's say, $100,000 today. Let's say.
It was basically $5,000 a song. 10 songs, $50,000 per CD. That's what it cost you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who'd you go to? Who sang with it? Wasn't this Perlman?
I was just going to say. So thank God I said I don't have enough money to take the exposure on $50,000. I was speaking to Aryeh. I was my very good friend, as you know, singing with him a lot, doing the a cappella, doing every Shabbos we were working, doing the a cappella at the Shabbatons, and doing at people's bar mitzvahs and all that good stuff.
So you were side hustling.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And it was a great side hustle.
Yeah.
Cash again, great money. And Aryeh said, yeah, I definitely want to do it. Let's do it. So we split it. And I went to Yossi Green. And we sat by the piano in Seagate. And he wrote me, if you remember, 9 out of the 11 songs.
I don't know this, by the way. No.
Fine.
How did you get to Yossi?
How did I get to Yossi? I probably just made the call to Yossi, but I really got to Yossi to get to know him through the Zuckers, right? Through Yossi and Penny and Moshe. And I was been by, as you know, by their house for many, many Shabbosim. And on Friday night, very often after dinner, what did we do? We went round to Mordechai and David's house, or Yossi Green's house. We'd have a little kumsitz, and we'd sing for 20 minutes, half an hour. And that's how I really got to know Yossi.
Shout out to the Zuckers.
Yes, absolutely.
Zukier.
Shout out to the Zuckers. I don't know if do you remember who made my shidduch?
No.
Yossi and Vinny.
No way.
Yeah.
I did not know.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. This is this is quite a story.
Yeah.
So the idea of hanging out in Seagate over Shabbos, what a gift that was.
Yeah.
Just happened to have a good friend that lives next door to the leaders of our time in terms of music.
Absolutely. Yes.
Amazing.
Would daven with us every Shabbos by the nursing home. Yeah. It was gingy. It was good days, good times.
So you went and made an album at that time while you're exploring the real estate world.
It took like a year and a half.
What was that song? You had a song that was very catchy.
Rachim?
Yes.
Rachim. Yeah.
It's a great song.
Yeah. Good song. I say I want to do something more with that song. Actually, we're just talking about it now. So to re-release it in a different format.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's got a lot of juice in it that can be done.
You mean the words, the song?
The words, the song,
everything.
Got new arrangement to it. Thank God my voice is very different today. I, sing on different places. And I think it'd be
what
great.
would you do now if you wanted to come out with a song? Who are you calling now? You still calling Yossi Green or?
I did 2 singles I did with Yossi Waldner.
Okay, great.
Mary Cohen, and of course Salachti. And they were beautiful. They were amazing. And I put a beautiful video together with both of them. There's so many.
So you call Yossi Green, you're making an album, You come out with a song, and meanwhile, you're learning about real
10
estate.
songs. Came out with a full
10
album.
songs,
Yeah.
yeah.
Took about a year and a half, 2 years. Until in those days, everything was slow motion. You know,
Yeah.
we recorded the music in Israel. Moshe Laufer did the arrangements. We recorded the vocals in the end by Gidon Levine in Borough Park. And it was, it was our first album. And, you didn't have auto-tune and all the stuff that you have today. So it had to be perfection. It had to be right. Thank God it's an album I'm really proud of today still. And it was like a dream. It was something I never believed I would ever be able to do. And Hashem gave me that ability and time to do that.
Yeah.
And and I wasn't able to do it as you know, for many years after that. Not that I wasn't able to. I was just so busy with work and trying to hustle. And like I said, it was a lot of money.
So let's go back to that hustle.
Yes.
So you're hustling, you're learning the real estate world.
Yes.
Take me through that.
And it took me about a year. It was right after 9/11. And I found a building in the Bronx for sale, an 8-family with 2 stores, vacant.
What do you mean you found it? How did you find it?
New York Times, Sunday edition.
Really? Was it the first property you looked at, or?
Absolutely not. I've been looking for like a year, went to a bunch of auctions.
So you're
didn't win them.
looking, you're
Yeah.
evaluating, you're seeing. In
Learning.
today's equivalent, you're on Zillow.
Exactly right.
Right.
And really, one of the best places for New York real estate at the time was the New York Times Sunday edition, the real estate section. Before everything was online, so you actually had a few days to try and get there. I called the broker. I showed it to Shmuel. He said, actually, it probably makes sense. It was $400,000. I got the owner to hold a note for $200,000. I needed $200,000 down. Plus, I needed the construction.
So you didn't have to take a mortgage.
No.
Got it.
Because
So that's
the
a
owner
cool way to get
financing.
into a deal.
Correct. I had no
general.
credit. I had nothing at the
The
time.
seller
as you know.
financing, he holds a
Exactly.
note. He's basically lending you the money. At what rate back then? Do you even
It
remember?
was 7%. It was nothing crazy.
7%.
Yeah.
And then you're coming out with your own 200 grand.
Correct.
I guess
Plus
100
closing
each.
costs. Exactly.
Closing costs, repairs.
Yeah. So at that time, sorry, I wasn't with Bruchi.
Okay.
He had already gone into some other stuff. I took in one of my partners still today, my good friend Mark Preston. And he brought in another partner, so he split his part. And we had to come up with, like I said, the $200,000 for closing, and we had to come up with another $250 to renovate the building. And the plan was at the time, we're going to make it a homeless shelter. The homeless shelters were great; they were big, Giuliani, and all you had to do was basically make this beautiful building for them, pass it on, give them the keys, 15-year triple net lease, refinance your building, and God willing, with Hashem's help, you get your payment every month, and life is good, and you go on to the next one. At that time, I'd already tied up another building that came up on the block, a few doors down. This was at 389 East 138th Street. I just sold the building last year after like 21, 22 years. Yeah.
Wow. What was it, that building?
It was an 8-family with 2 stores.
Another 8-family.
That was the one, my first building.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the one a few doors down was the
Yeah.
same thing. Yes, correct.
That's what I'm saying. They're both 8 families, 2 stores downstairs.
Yes.
A nice way to get into the market.
Exactly.
You knew you wanted to get into the multifamily market?
Yes.
Got it.
Everyone was a multifamily in those days, really.
Yeah, but this is multifamily with retail downstairs.
Correct.
That's
So there was
more
a few-
challenging.
Correct. But it was, again, easy retail. Barber stores, nail salons.
People that come and go, and
That's it.
you could fill them up easily.
Yeah, pharmacy we had.
Was it a dangerous neighborhood?
Probably looking back, it wasn't the best. 138th and Willis, right off the bridge, right by the
Right. The
tenement
Bronx
building.
back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even today, not the best neighborhood.
Right.
And I was going every single day, going to see the construction sites, like everybody else. Went through my challenges. The first contractor did a job on us.
Was that
And
the
it was-
first holy, oh my
Yes,
God, like
absolutely.
the contractor?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
picked
yeah.
the wrong contractor.
Yeah. Because I think it was like an extra $50,000 that we had to come up with, and who had it? Like in those days, I'm saying today it's a lot of money.
You
In
still
those
own that
days-
building?
Like I said, I just sold it.
No, the other one I'm saying. You said you
I
bought.
sold them all.
Oh, you sold them all.
Sold them all.
Okay.
The other ones I sold a few years ago. I almost sold them all as a package. I had 3 in the end over there, and it was a package. 2 of them closed like 10 years ago. The third one didn't close for some reason. A problem with the CEO, whatever, didn't close. Ended up holding the last one. I kept it for like another 10 years longer.
Just curious,
sold
why
it.
wouldn't you keep your property? Did you need the money?
This one that I just sold now.
Yeah.
I really thought I would keep it, because it was my first building, and I really thought it was something I really wanted to hold on to. And like I said, I kept it for over 20 years. With all the changes after 2019, rent stabilized in New York. I don't have to tell you, I'm sure you've heard all about it. Everything has changed. The challenges are outrageous, and I just don't want to be part of it.
It's also happening now again with Mamdani.
Absolutely. Even worse.
Right.
Even worse.
So landlords, people who want to buy real estate and increase the value of the quality and bring to the community something good, are being deterred, and they're like, who wants to do real estate in New York?
Mandani just got a rent freeze. He got exactly what he promised his people, and he just bought himself another 4 years, unfortunately. Hopefully I'm wrong. But, I'll be Teva. If you think about it, he promised all his people, I'm going to get you the rent freeze. He got you the rent freeze. So why wouldn't they vote him in again? All the liberals. So it is what it is. I don't have to tell you, insurance, everything is going up about 6 to 8% a year, and you have a rent freeze of 0. And we're already behind for years on expenses that are so much higher than the rents, the way it's been climbing the last few years. It doesn't work. The scale doesn't work.
I don't get it. You got to explain this to me because I do know real estate, and I understand the market that you're referring to, and I get the challenges. What do you tell Mamdani? He's sitting here, and we're not people that are looking to retire on a building in the Bronx. We're looking to bring quality and bring value. So what do you tell? What's the conversation like as a landlord in the Bronx?
If you were the landlord, how would you handle it? How does it make sense, Mandani, that you do a rent freeze, that our increases are 0, and insurance went up, I think, last year by 20%. The real estate taxes went up, I think, by 12%. Water, sewage, everything else just goes up. Regular increases that go up 2-3% a year. How is this going to work?
What do you think he's going to respond?
I think he's going to respond, I'm sorry, I feel bad. Because I think at the end of the day I think they don't care if New York City owns all this real estate. I think half the plan is, for the city to gain back a lot of the real estate.
Wow.
Because you can't run it as a business. It's not a business. It's not a feasible business right now. So look how many people have got out of the business in the last few years.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a scary thought, actually.
Very scary thought. And I always say, thankfully, if you remember a little bit of my journey, going back to my journey, in 2005, I bought my first portfolio of office buildings in Florida. And people thought I was crazy. Even my investors said, how are you going to manage properties in Florida? And I said to them, very simple. I said, look, in New York, we're buying them whatever cap rate they were. I said, these cap rates are so much better in Texas, in Florida, in Nashville, everywhere that we started going out in 2005. I said, there's more room for error, which thankfully there was. I was right. I said, you're right. You know what? We won't be able to manage them the same. I won't be able to go and make sure that, every time there's a small leak or every time the electric's not working, I make sure that's only $75 or $100. You're right. We're going to have to trust people more. There's going to be more management. There's going to be more trust. But we have room in the calculations of the cap rates that, things will make sense financially, that we'll be able to make more money. And I said, I don't want to do this rat race anymore in New York. And thankfully, I started my portfolio out of state, as you know, in 2005.
Okay, so let's go back to that a second. So well said, by the way, and thank you for that perspective, because that I didn't really think about it for a second. You had to hit it to me over the head. Hello, of course I'm selling my properties in New York. Yeah, it makes sense.
I didn't want to.
Of course.
I never believed I would sell my first property.
Right, I'm shocked also. I'm thinking, what, you selling your properties? That's an unfortunate reality that we're living in right now, and God willing, we won't have another 4 years of hate and anti-Semitism coming out of that person. So it's terrible. It's a terrible thing. That being said, so you're buying your first 2 pieces of real estate. Congratulations. It feels good, but the money's coming out of your pocket now, right?
Money's coming out of my pocket.
Yeah.
There's no income.
Right.
There's no fees.
Right.
I got to live.
So talk to me. I'm
getting married.
Exactly.
I got engaged at the same
you got
time.
Engaged.
And I'm bringing out this $50,000 project.
What do you tell this girl you do? You're in real estate?
Yeah. I'm in real estate. Yeah. So thankfully we did on the side, we did a couple of flips, made $25,000 on one flip, $35,000, but split it with somebody else.
Okay.
But in those, like I said, it was money.
You were surviving on that.
I was surviving, but there was no money.
Got it. So you bought these
I was building equity.
So you bought these 2 properties. You jumped to buying office buildings. Anything happened between then and office buildings?
Yes. We built 2 condos in Harlem on 113th and 8th Avenue. I always say in those days it was called Harlem. Today it's called Manhattan. Yeah. So again, it was 2 vacant buildings, shells. And there was a great condo market at the time. So I did a very similar model to what I'd done in the Bronx, but obviously much nicer finishes, much nicer kitchens and bathrooms. And thankfully we sold it out. We did a condo plan and I learned that whole business. Retail on the bottom and 13 apartments above. We did 26 in total, 2 different buildings, 3 doors apart from each other. And that was my thing that I did in the middle, in between.
Got it. So from there...
That helped some cash flow.
Yep. So that got you into cash flow, got you into real estate. You're learning the multifamily, the retail, and then suddenly offices.
Yes.
And that was the cheshbon. The calculation that you made was out of town, more of a spread. You're talking about what kind of cap rate were you looking at in Florida at that time?
I would say probably it was about 9 cap.
9 cap.
Yes.
So for all those listening, 9 cap, 10 cap, just simplify it as much as you can.
Good. So you have your income. Let's say you have $100,000 income on a building.
You have a property. It's costing you $1 million to buy.
Yes.
And you have $100,000 of gross rent that's coming in a month, let's say.
Good. And let's say you have $50,000 of expenses.
Okay.
So now you have $50,000 left before mortgage. So 5 into $1 million, 5 cap.
Okay. So the cap is always referred to prior to the mortgage.
Exactly.
And that's cash on cash. That's the cap rate.
Exactly.
Got it. But then you take a mortgage because you need a mortgage.
Exactly.
Right. And that's when it all starts to fail.
Start to fail, or again, I always tell everybody I'm a big believer in responsible debt and responsible leverage. And we've all made mistakes. In 2008, I had a lot of mistakes, and we can talk about that later. But responsible leverage, I think, is the most precious tool that you can use.
Define that a little more. I like what you're saying, but define it a little more.
So again, if you're buying a building, whether it's 75% leverage, whether it's 65% leverage, whether it's 50% leverage, obviously that leverage is going to enable you to buy more properties and to do more, right? So instead of being able to buy one property, if you have $1 million, let's just say you leverage it by 50%, whatever we're saying. Now you can buy 2 properties or 3 properties, whatever the case may be. With no leverage, it's very tough. Now you're stuck. So if you have old money, I always say, old foundations, old trust accounts, a lot of these trusts are very happy to make the 3 to 5% a year. And it works wonders because, these trusts have been in, these family trusts have been in the family for generations. There's millions of dollars. We deal with a lot of these family offices and they're wonderful and they're great. And all they want to do is different. It's called preserve capital, which I'm sure you know all about.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to help those people preserve capital. I'm trying to help those people that want to get into real estate.
I was going to say, we didn't have that ability to preserve capital, make 3 to 5%.
Right. So
we had to roll the money. We had to make money and roll.
Essentially, you're saying diversify your debt and do it with a balance and responsibly.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Very, very smart. So you're doing that. So now you're looking at Florida and you're saying I could do much more. So you have to go to investors and get them.
Absolutely.
And then what kind of splits were you doing? 70-30, 80-20?
It was probably about a 70-30 split.
And for those listening who don't understand, what does that mean? 70-30 split with 8% pref. People hear it all the time, but let's educate those who don't know.
Sure. So basically, let's say we're raising $1 million. Let's say the investors are putting in the $1 million just for argument's sake, to make it simple. The investors are going to make 7-8% on their money, whatever the pref is.
Meaning 7, a preferred 8, 10, return of their money. Yep.
So before anybody gets anything, the investors are going to get on their money 7, 8, 10%, whatever it is. After that, there's a split. 70-30, 60-40, whatever the agreement may say.
What's
depending
normal?
On the deal. It depends. Like I say, if it's a cash out deal, cash out deal obviously is a deal that you can work for a couple of years and we hope and pray that all the money comes out. Then obviously you can ask for a bigger promote. You can ask for a bigger split because at that point, the investors are getting back all their money and they're getting a great return, hopefully forever and ever or until you sell the building. With non-recourse debt, everyone's, God willing, sitting pretty, with a shams out. So I always say if it's a cash out deal like that, you can be more aggressive, 50-50, 60-40. If it's a deal that's more of a long-term play, cash flow deal, then I would say it's more like 70-30.
Meaning the person that put together the deal gets 30% and the investor, money is king, right? In terms of the world of investments.
After the pref.
After the pref gets a 7. And sometimes the pref is pushed off. Sometimes they're ongoing. That's where it also gets tricky.
Right.
Because I could tell you I've invested money with people and, that pref is what they sell you on. But getting the actual return on your investment is challenging. It's difficult. So
funny you say that. Just yesterday, a side hustle. I invested a few bucks into a something in the medical field, and I have to keep it confidential. And the guy got me in through the back door through him. And I think it's going to be like God willing, I think it could be like an 8 times on your money, 10 times on your money, like one of those. And I didn't put in big money, I didn't put in small money, put in real money. And just yesterday, he actually just called me and said, "Can we restructure it?" We put it in just over a year ago because he guaranteed me he wanted a 50% promote on what he's buying into this company, and he has a big piece of it already. And he did very well. He brought in a very good valuation. And let's say I think he bought in a $30 million valuation. He thinks it could be worth, $150 million in a couple of years. If it takes off, I don't have to tell you these things. It can go one way or the other, but God willing, if it takes off, it could be worth a real multiple. So he said, "I'll let you in but I want 50% of your upside. But he said, I'm so confident, I think it's going to be a couple of years play. I'll give you a 30% minimum IRR. I said, okay, if you give me a 30% minimum IRR.
30% IRR again
per
is
year, 30% per year.
30% interest.
Yes.
On your
Again,
money.
He's not guaranteeing anything.
Sure.
Only if the business does well.
Sure.
So if it makes 10 times, makes 5 times on your money in 2
You'll
years.
make first your 30%.
Exactly. So I have a footing basically of 30% a year. And he called me up just yesterday. He said, can we restructure it? Because I'm getting nervous. He said, you know what? I know it's going to do amazing. I just don't know how many years we're going to be in for. And I don't know if I want this ticking at 30% a year. So I said, look, I'm being honest with you. I said, you took 50% of my upside, which is a lot. I agreed to go into it. I love the business. I love what it is. And you're taking 50%. But I went into this because knowing that I at least have this floor if you're taking 50% of my upside.
What did Shalom Jacobs do?
I've done nothing yet, but we'll have to see.
Interesting.
Next episode.
Is this this is a matter of being a nice guy versus business, right?
That's
you can't mix the two.
It's a good friend, and it's someone I've done a lot of business with. But like I said, I was really honest with him. Like that's why I'm not even embarrassed to tell the story in the podcast, and I'll probably watch it. Like I said, it's really, if you're really taking 50% on somebody else's promote, we're already buying in a valuation that's already been offered to investors.
Right.
But he was getting in a good multiple because you're already in the business. But it gets complicated.
It does get complicated, and it's talking about money. So just to ask you, you're a successful guy financially, and you've been making a lot of good decisions, and you've learned from decisions that
I made mistakes too.
Sure, sure. Those are also good decisions, right? That you learn from them.
All part of the course.
So someone has $1 million right now in their life, and they just I don't know, they won the lottery. But there's someone in Muncie, we just spoke about it last podcast, won the lottery, $5,000 a week. That's different, by the way. You're not one lump sum. So you take it and you say thank you to Hashem and you move on. But if you won the lotto of $1 million, or if you did a deal and you got a broker fee of $1 million, what do you suggest based on your experience to do?
So what was I Googling last night talking about that?
I don't know.
So often, I don't have to tell you, most people don't want to say who they are, especially if they're in the community. The whole fact that this lady was public about it, like, wow, kol hakavod, $5,000 a week, it's definitely a life changer. But it's not a number that's going to, it's not like, wow, that you won $50 million that, everyone's going to be knocking down your door to build the next yeshiva. You know what I'm saying? So, I found that very interesting that she was, open about coming out, that she was the one that did it, and, and Mazel Tov, and it's such a beautiful thing. But it said in the article that she, didn't take the lump sum, and she opted for the $5,000 a week.
What was the lump sum?
So of course I Googled what's the lump sum.
Oh, that's where we're at.
Yeah. So it said it would have been about 2 million and change. So it would have been, I worked it out, it was like just under 10 years worth, right? So it's really interesting. I don't know how old she is, obviously. And it says, I think you get a minimum of 20 years payout. They have to give you a minimum of 20 years. I don't know if, God forbid, something happens to anybody. And
I believe it carries over.
It carries over, but only for 20.
Yeah.
And then if you live longer than 20, that continues loyal and void, as many years as you live, which is why it's called cash for life, right? And I said to myself, I get it. After taxes, I think it was around $2 million. I don't want it to look after taxes, of course. Before taxes. I think after taxes, we can look it up. I believe after taxes was 1.5 or something.
Right.
I said, I understand why she took it.
Right. $1.5 million or $5,000 for at least 20 years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And $5,000 a week, I don't have to tell you, is a game changer for any household, whatever someone's making. And to know what's coming in, from the government.
To that point, what would you do with $1.5 million? Let's say she would have taken the 1.5 and the next call she would have made was to Shalom.
Sure.
Shalom, I just made $1.5 million. What do I do? What's your answer?
I have to tell you, I go back to the Gemara, and I wish I would have told my younger self this when I didn't really have the education and I didn't really have the ability to make the choices. We were all in. Like I said, when we were in cameras, we were all in. When I was in real estate, I was all in. Enough time or money to diversify. But the Gemara says it, right? A third, a third, a third. I would say absolutely a third in cash, in bonds, whatever you want to do with it. A third in real estate, 1,000%. And a third in whatever you think, S&P 500, some crypto, some businesses, whatever you think.
Medical companies.
Some medical companies, absolutely.
But Sean, did you go to college at all?
I went to Turo for one semester, but I wasn't able to pay the fees for the next semester, and that didn't go too well.
Good question, Steph. Wow,
Yeah.
one semester you couldn't afford
Were
it.
we not there together?
maybe for like a little bit.
Well,
I was also in Toro.
I remember seeing you, Avi Goldstein.
Yeah,
Right, Monday and Wednesday nights.
You know who used to
On
hang
Avenue
out
J?
in front of Toro over there? Also, the JDL. Do you remember the Jewish Defense League? Mayor
No.
Kahana, that whole group.
I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
because they used to come, talk about the Black Panthers back then, et cetera.
No.
Well, not that old, but they would give us the history of that.
Yeah.
Shalom, you have buildings. You're starting in the office buildings. What's the first office building you bought? How big was it? It must have been nerve-wracking. Take me through that.
It was 150,000 square feet. It was 10 buildings on Taft Street on Hollywood, right off the 440.
In Florida?
In Florida.
I know exactly where that is.
Today, it's like the hottest location.
Do you still own that building?
We sold the last one about 8 years ago. It was a portfolio of 10 different buildings.
10 different buildings you
yeah.
went into. You went from buying 2 buildings in the Bronx to doing a couple of deals in there and then jumping. And then,
some of it was office.
yeah,
And like I said, it was very low end, C-class buildings.
that's also risky.
But again, that's what we were able to afford. That's what we were able to do. I wasn't able to go and buy a beautiful A-class building. What am I telling my investors? What am I doing? How am I creating them value? Like you said, when you're asking for your promote, people come into my office still today and try and pitch me to come into their deals. And we like to help anyone we can and like to try and invest in young people if we can. We have a real estate fund that we like to try and help people with, and we try and invest with them. But what are you creating? If you're not creating any value, what are you doing? What do you need to promote for? If you want to buy if some wealthy, well-to-do family wants to buy a nice, beautiful office building, they don't need Shalom Jacobs. They just go and buy the building, give it to an office, give it to a management company, and make their 5-6% a year. And think, God willing, things should be good.
right.
Right.
They don't have that upside or that added
Absolutely
value
not.
of what someone would get for a promote.
No,
So you're buying these 10 buildings, you
Yes.
get them. Do they start making money right away?
they made money right away. We went with a group from Lakewood, where our partners on it, and after a couple of years, they wanted to sell the portfolio. My partner at the time did not want to sell. And he said, no, let's refinance. And I didn't even understand this whole concept. He said, we're going to refinance it and we're going to buy out the partners with the equity.
Refinancing meaning the rates dropped, right?
The rates
you're only
dropped a little bit.
refinancing because the equity went up and the rates
That's
dropped.
correct.
So you're able to cash out some money.
That's correct.
Which is what the bottleneck is going on over the past few years in real estate, right? That
Correct.
people don't have that ability.
Correct. And
Yeah.
we were one of the last, I'm not going to say which bank, we were one of the last 10-year interest-only loans that we got right before the crash in 2008. And then everything just went boots.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went through those 10 buildings. You go into the process. You're making money on those buildings. You get married, right?
Yes, I was already married. I was already
Right.
working in Florida. At least I was there at least once a week. I was
You're
traveling down there.
living, breathing it. You're
Yes.
managing it. It's
was my
doing
life.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fast forward to me how you got into the hotels and what your portfolio looked like.
Yeah, so I also like different than a lot of real estate people. I never, as you've seen from my little journey, I never kept to one type of real estate for the good or the bad. I think now for the good, sometimes I second guess myself. Most people I know, like you say, are in office, multifamily, development. I always dabbled in all of them, and I always liked having a little bit of exposure to all. And another thing I always did on the side, and especially in 2008, when I had to deal with a lot of our own problems and a lot of debt that had gone bad and dealing with banks and partnerships. Thank God, with Hashem's help, I was able to reposition a lot of those assets. Unfortunately, we lost a couple of them. We had to get back to the bank. But thankfully, most of them we were able to reposition. And some of them we had the opportunity to buy back for cents on the dollar, which was an absolute gift from Hashem, which I always say was really what gave me my real basis. I always said, before that, I had real estate, but I didn't really have equity. When I was able to buy back some of those, so cheap, and the banks were calling us to try and make deals with them, I really realized what a blessing that something so bad and so painful, and I went through like a couple of years of, I don't even want to say, it was awful. Investors calling, banks calling, lawsuits flying. It was awful. It was just a horrible, horrible time.
You're talking about during this era of 2008?
2008, the financial crash,
Right.
financial crisis.
So that's when everything stopped for you in terms of this well-oiled machine.
Yes.
And suddenly investors are not getting their returns. And I see. Okay, so you went through that process then along with everybody else, but that created also an opportunity for you with the banks.
Massive opportunity. And it didn't stop there. And then all of a sudden, people had heard that Shalom was successful in repositioning his loan with this bank and that bank and the other bank. So, Moshe would call Chaim and Chaim would call Shlomi. And then they would call me and say, by the way, I heard you just repositioned your loan with Dime Bank, with whatever it is, any bank. Do you mind? Could you try and help me? And thankfully, it became another little side hustle business for me at the time. I was able to help a lot of people reposition a lot of debt, thank God. Let's say the old $5 million from the bank. Some of them I got down to $1 million, 20 cents on the dollar. However, they didn't have the $1 million. They were buying gold. It was literally gold. The NOIs, the gross returns, the net returns, whatever you want to say, the numbers were there, but people didn't have any money. That was the difference. I say the difference between today and back then in 2008, money was not on the street. It wasn't like today, or like after COVID. There was so much money produced, and I found another little avenue. So I said, you know what? I'm going to raise the money. So then I started raising money to help those people get that $1 million, whatever they needed to reposition their loans, and we were able to buy into those loans.
And you're in a great position for investors. You're like, I can guarantee you that this property is worth 4 or 5 times more.
Yes.
Wow, that's fascinating.
And some of the deals we're in today, thankfully, still some of my cash flow is still from those deals that I was able to reposition for those people by trying to help them, make a fee. I thought I'd just make a fair fee, whatever it was. And that turned out to really be a real blessing.
I see this as a pattern in general with you and a lot of people. When you start helping and you start giving, is that when, that's when God reciprocates and you suddenly start getting it also. It doesn't, you don't feel it right away, but that energy starts to amount to something.
So I have to tell you, our dear friend Jack, I have to say, like, all jokes aside, Tzedakah, he's the one that really, really, I've always been a massive person to love giving tzedakah. It was always in my heart, and it was always something that was important to me. And I learned that from the Syrians very, very early on. I remember in photographic, like I said, when I was 20 years old, and my dad coming into the office, he was here just fundraising, and he was here to to come to 770 and to go to the OL to see the Rebbe. And I remember them taking out the checkbooks and writing $1,800 checks and $5,000 checks. I'd never seen this in my entire life. My dad was fundraising his whole life and calling people on the phone, £100, £18, £50, whatever it was. And people are writing checks like that. I never believed it. So my first real exposure was for the Syrians. And I still say to this day that they just have a way. They have a way of giving. And I tell my kids the same thing, that, one of my first sukkahs experiences with my Syrian friends. And I remember seeing their sukkah, and I never seen a sukkah like it in my entire life. It looked like the Waldorf. It looked literally like a room in the Waldorf. And I said, you know what? They give the same chashivas, they give the same importance, they give the same work and effort into the mitzvah as they do to their business, as they do to buying their cars. So, a lot of people look and say their cars and, their businesses and their vacations and their weddings and whatever it is. But I'm telling you right now, watch these guys also. Forget about the way they daven. We all know that. You walk into their shuls and you don't hear a peak, unlike, unfortunately, our shuls. But look at everything else. The way they take care of a mitzvah, the way they give the importance to the mitzvah, is like, I don't know anybody else like them.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're saying this. The other day, I was sitting with a friend of mine, Ellie, and his wife, and they were talking about how people on podcasts always talk about successes. Yeah. Let's talk about all the charity that's being done in the world. And here you are talking about the Syrian community giving out, and you're comparing Yaakov to that type of person. That's a big accolade, Yaakov, a.k.a. Jack, a.k.a. one of our BFFs.
Absolutely. Look, I don't want to say, and I'll let Yaakov say it for himself, shout out to Yaakov Friedler. But I believe he probably learned it from his Syrian partners. Again, I'm not going to be the one to say it, but I believe that's where he probably got it from. We know his partners and we know them well. I believe that's probably where he got that energy from. And don't get me wrong, the Ruby Schroens, the Wolfson family, giants, beyond giants, people that I know.
Are you experiencing what the giving is like out there in the world? Tell me a little bit about it.
People give beyond your wildest imagination. I say, I don't think there's any Mika Amcho Yisro. I don't think there's any, I don't think there's no people like it in the world, that people that make money, that want to give money, right? I always say, like, some of my partners, gotta be careful how I say this, some of my biggest partners are not Jewish, right? I'm not going to say that. So I'm just saying.
I'll say it. What you're saying is that in general, when you look at the world out there, the sense of making money is to make money and keep it. and make money and give it to your personal lifestyle and your family potentially. And I'm not saying that you're not a bad person. You're a good person. But our community, the reason that I keep hearing of people wanting to make money is because they want to give.
Thank you. You just took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, we've all heard the expression, and when we were younger, maybe it wasn't so meaningful, but I remember the first time I heard it, one of my big investors said to me, Shalom, if this investment works, I'm going to eat the same steak either way. And I didn't really understand it. But, obviously, years later, I do understand it. And, I think, Jeffrey, in the Jewish world, it's different for us. It's very, very different. That, you know what, because we're not just thinking about our steak. It comes to a point, like you said, that, God willing, we will be eating the same steak, God willing, with Hashem's help and Hashem's blessings. It should be for everybody. We will be eating the same steak. But you know what? What about What about everybody else? And that's the difference. That's where we strive so much. Like I always say, how many friends of ours do we know that could retire, have retired, semi-retired? You just can't believe it. Like we never dreamt, people in our 40s, friends of ours, that our parents' age didn't have that many people that we know that could live like nice and comfortably now, go to Israel or do what they want to do and live a nice life, go to Florida, have their apartment on the water, live a nice life, live off a few buildings, whatever it is. But they don't want to stop. No one wants to stop. They want to do it to obviously build for the kids, for their legacy, their grandkids, and of course to help Klal Yisrael, to help our people.
I think for us, it's not about the like the Uncle Scrooge, like how much money is in the money bin. It's about, okay, I have it. Where can I give it? And think about it like, unfortunately, if people they lose a spouse, and the next day, and this is what Sean was saying before, but like it's so uncommon within our community. How many people that are not Jewish, that a friend of theirs dies or whatever it is, next morning there's a fund already up on the internet, and they're raising $250,000, $300,000 just to give the almana like the peace of mind that, okay, at least I have something right now that I could, be able to move on with, whatever happened. And like, that doesn't happen in the rest of the world. And like, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't agree with you more.
And it's nice to hear it coming from you and your perspective and, hearing this. Back to the hotels. We're not finishing this podcast until I hear how you bought your first hotel. Yeah. I'm still amazed by that.
Good. So we're talking about 2008. We're talking about the crash, challenges, got into a side hustle of helping other people. Part of it, like I said, it was helping people find equity. And some of it led me into some hard loans, into some regular bridge loans, first mortgages. Sometimes a lot of people said, no, we don't want to give up the equity, but we were able to make some money doing some regular bridge loans, 12 and 2, whatever it was in those days. And it was pretty safe investment. You're buying it back really cheap from the bank. And word got out that I was doing that as a side hustle until today. We still do that on the side. We got a call from a guy in Georgia who owned a Red Roof Inn in Savannah, Georgia. And he said, I need a loan. I have this crazy hotel and I'm able to buy it. I need the cash in 5 days. It wasn't a lot of money for those days. I think it was like $500,000, brand new hotel. The bank had, they weren't able to pay the bank. The bank had foreclosed on it. And we did it. The guy, absolute screwball, ended up in jail. He had
ended up in jail?
In jail. He'd actually been in jail for three times. We didn't know.
Wow.
Before using different names, using different things, did some crazy stuff. Thank God we had the mortgage and we took over the property. I said, okay, what are we going to do? And one of my managers of one of my retail centers in Dalton, Georgia at the time, I was telling him the story. I said, it was a Friday afternoon and we were taking over the hotel. And I said, what am I going to do with the hotel? I know multifamily. I know development a little bit. I know office buildings. I know retail. I know most other, asset class in real estate. I have absolutely no idea about hotels. I don't have to tell you, hotels, like we said, is more like, like nursing homes, etc. It's an operation. It's a business within real estate. But I have no choice. He said, you know what? I used to run hotels 20 years ago. This was my manager in Georgia. I said, do you mind getting on a plane tonight? He got on a plane. We took over the hotel. And I took a liking to the hotel business. Like I said, I think it was the action part of it. Like we were saying earlier, it's not an easy business. I don't think any business is really easy. But, it's a daily business, right? So even if you're having a bad week, the next week you can turn around the numbers. you know, I always say if the economy goes up, if anything happens, weather related, you can see an immediate increase. You know, so it has a little bit of action to the business, to real estate. Like I said, so most real estate, you're like this, you're climbing very, very slowly. We're talking about the 7 to 10 year scale, 7 to 10 year graph. I think, like I said, if hotels, if you work it, if you hustle, it's got that hustle within the real estate. So I feel they have the real estate and able to have a little bit of the hustle. So over the years, we bought a few hotels, not many, and we've added them to the portfolio. And it's a part of the portfolio that I really enjoy. I enjoy going down. I enjoy the improvements. I enjoy the flags. Like I said, I enjoy the people. I enjoy the interaction.
Can Prime Stores do an audit on all your expenses?
1,000. If they haven't done it already, I don't know why. Because we sat and yes.
Wow. Well, it wasn't all these years that we were able to service hotels. So it happened recently. It's something that I'm excited about. And like you said, the hustle, it's a different kind of hustle.
Yes.
And it's dealing with people and customer service and challenges like that. And wow, congratulations to you. It's amazing. What's the most fascinating thing that ever happened to you in the real estate?
I was able to buy back one of my properties for 12 cents on the dollar. And it was nothing more clear than a gift from Hashem. We owed the bank just under $16 million, non-recourse. So like I said, we could have walked away from our money. Nothing would have happened. We were in the clear. We'd have given, that's the beauty of non-recourse debt.
Non-recourse meaning not on your personal name.
Correct.
It's on a LLC.
Whatever money we put in the beginning, we would have lost.
Lose. Yep.
And we had got got back a lot of the investment already through cash flow.
Wow.
And I don't want to say the bank's name, but the bottom line is after a year of working the banker, he agreed to sell us back the debt at 12 cents on the dollar. I have a plaque on my office if you ever come in, and it was from $15.9 million. So do the math. I believe we paid $2.1 million.
Wow.
Let me tell you something. Ask me how easy it was to raise the $2.1 million. It was one of the hardest things I did. But thank God we did it.
I believe that.
Yeah.
You mentioned briefly about your music career, and we didn't even get to talk about Israel. So I don't want to wrap up before we talk about it.
Sorry.
So first of all, give me some of your most memorable moments. You've sang at HASC, and you've sang for thousands and thousands of people. Take me back since you landed to America until today. Some of your most memorable moments in music.
Of course, singing with Avram Fried, the HASC concert, the Oh Hell concert, Mordechai and David, Yaakov Shweki, being on stage with them year after year with Shir Mendlowitz, Oliver Shalom, his shows were just so beyond. And of course, Ding. Moments we just never forget. Singing in Madison Square Gardens, 5,000 people, Avery Fisher Hall every year, that massive stage, 30-piece orchestra. I never dreamt in my wildest dream being on the stage with those guys, just beyond, being backstage with them. Memories beyond incredible. But my highlight so far in my life is no question after October 7th. I went back on my first mission to Israel 2 weeks after October 7th. I was there for October 7th in Israel with my family. And of course, it was a hard time, difficult time. And I had to get the kids home, I had to get my wife home, and everybody just wanted to get home for obvious reasons. And when I left, I didn't feel good about it at all. If you remember from when we were in Israel, I was there for 3.5 years in Israel. I never wanted to leave. My heart was always in Israel. My heart still is in Israel. It's a big part of me. You watch all my stuff. And I didn't feel good about it. And a week and a half later, two great guys, JJ Hecht and Neil Cooperman, from Toys for Hospitalized Kids, who are part of NCFJE, which I was a president for many years, reached out to me and said, we're going to do a small mission to Israel. Please, we need you. Please come. We're going to meet a couple of the, we didn't meet the hostages on that trip. We met a couple of the people who had lost people on October 7th. We met a few of the families. We went to the displaced hotels, to two of them. This was 2 weeks after the war. And we went to a bunch of the hospitals. We went to Schneider's, we went to Shari Sedek. And I didn't believe what I saw. And then on the last night, a friend of mine said, please, we're doing a barbecue for the soldiers in this army base. Would you come? I said, no problem. He said, I'll get you a driver. Just come. You can help. I said, no problem. I'm going to come. And of course, one of my friends were down there and said, Shalom, just sing something. I thought it was like a joke. I'm like, these 18-year-old kids, who am I? An absolute no name. And I can say it like, who was I? This guy that likes doing kumzah says it's a chazan in the world of Israel for 18-year-olds. Omer Adam coming to the army bases, Ishai Rebo coming to the army bases, the big guns. And then now I'm coming to the army bases. And all of a sudden I start singing and they're crowding around me. I start singing Achenu, I start singing the Misha Berach. I didn't believe what was going on. Am Yisrael Chai. And from then, I ended up singing over 50 army bases, which I'm sure you've seen all the videos. And for those 18 months, I was just going back and forward between, I got close with a lot of the hostage families, the Albags, many more. And I was able to then go back and visit the hostages, and which was amazing, in their homes. And a lot of those soldiers I got so close with, which I'm still so close with until this day, going to those army bases, it's just been absolutely, not a question, the highlight of my career, the highlight of everything. And of course, you probably saw my Misha Berach video, which had over 500,000 views. It's become my identity since October 7th. The first week after October 7th, when I came home, by where I'm the Chazan in the Chabad of the Shore, you know, my home, my love, everything about it. And the rabbi said to me that first Shabbos, can you sing the Misha Berach for the Chayalim? And we know, like, who sang it, like, once a year at concerts or, you know, some big Chazanim. I said, I know it a little bit, I'll sing it. And from then onwards, you know, we've been singing it almost every single Shabbos. I ended up putting out that video on 4 army bases, the Misha Berach video, which was something I'm so proud of, probably one of my proudest moments. And like I said, my highlight of all my singing is singing with the Chayalim. There's nothing makes me happier. I have to go back now to do it. I haven't been in 8 months.
When are you going again?
Maybe we'll talk about Shabbos Nachamu, and if not, right after, I'm going to go back in September, God willing.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow. I'm excited to share some time with you in Israel
BBL.
and go with you on all of these army bases. I'll string the E and the C and the D and the G, and you'll do it here in the vocally.
Can't wait.
We'll definitely close out this interview with this Misha Berach because, you know, Leil Nishmas, anyone that has perished through this terrible times, and
all the Chayalim should just be healthy. Exactly. The Misha Berach.
And kudos to you for all the effort that you're putting in. I see it, I'm watching it, I feel it. And Shalom, you're doing great things. You have any questions for me before we wrap up?
Absolutely. So you started Prime Source. I watched your whole journey. And so much of yourself and your mannerism and so much of your personality and so much of the journey that you're now on reminds me of myself. And I don't say that about many people at all. And that's why when you called me a few months ago and last year, I said, yes, let's do this podcast. Like I said, a lot of other people ask me to do podcasts. I'm happy to do them, but it's not the same chemistry. I'm watching you. I watched you start Prime Source. I watched you before it. And now I'm watching you on this journey. I watched your status for the last few years, which has become like beyond. And now this podcast. What made you go on this journey?
I have to answer you, and it's an emotional answer, and it's deep, and I'm not going to get into it right now, but I'm only saying this to you because I love you, and the love is deep, and it's there for years. It's not. I love most people I meet. Let's be honest. You're Jewish. You have a smile on your face. You have good energy. I love you. But with you, we were roommates. So this is coming from a more meaningful place. I went through a little bit of a depression, and I went through a challenge, and that springboarded this whole journey of me being vulnerable to the world. I was not comfortable going on camera and mic and talking. You got to ask my family around me. They laugh. I have videos of me talking just to see what I look like. And my family's like, no, this is not for you. And I'm like, oh, how am I going to do this? And in order to get naturally into it, so when I went through this challenge of mine internally, and I surrounded myself with good people and good guidance, and went through therapy and went through the process of learning what it's like to lose things and that's not in your control. Lost my mom, and, you know, went through financial challenges. And that's when someone who I met who woke me up said, go speak to God, go speak to him, shut your door. And what I didn't know then and what I know now is that helped change my life. It's Hispodedus. And so what happened to me is it turned into, I'm doing something and I'm here, and we have all these tools to give out messages in a positive way and influence people in a way to be part of a positive journey. That's where the mindset was. So, you know, we did the podcast for marketing for Prime Source, top of mind, you know, but it had to be meaningful. So if I'm going to open my status to the world, like, it's kind of uncomfortable. Like, I'm introducing my children to the world. I'm showing everybody, it's my son, it's my daughter, the Dvar Torah, Erev Shabbos. And the answer is really, ultimately, it was going through the downs, and it was going through the challenges that taught me, with the right people around me, to open up to the world and allow yourself to be vulnerable, which is why I'm being vulnerable with you. And how can I ask you to be vulnerable if I won't be? And it turned this whole journey into growth. And everything I do in my life for over 5 years, you know, part of the journey of Prime Source and who I am. And since we started this whole podcast and opening the status to the world, and, you know, I wrote on LinkedIn a lot. It's all coming from a place of growth. If I'm not growing, I'm dead, literally. And that's my feeling. And such an honor to grow with you and to do this with you on this platform. I appreciate it. It's
unbelievable. And I would love to do it again because I think there's a lot more to talk about on this on this particular subject. I'm just going to say one thing. Like I said, the music for me is a massive healing, and was a massive healing for me over the last 5, 6, 7 years. And there was a part of me that was absolutely missing. We were talking about my album that I was able to do when I was 21 years old. And like I said, for 20 years, I really didn't have the liberty or the opportunity, time, money to do it. I had to focus on my business. And I said, you know, that's what really connects me to Hashem. That's what really connects me to people. That's who I am. That's my identity. You know, making money and giving tzedakah and all that is wonderful, and what we have to do as humans, and have to do it as fathers, and have to do it as husbands, and have to do it as great people in society because we want to do great things. But our neshama, what speaks here, is exactly what really, really counts and what's really deep. And that's why I asked you your question on why you're doing your journey, which has been at a very similar time to when I've been able to reconnect to my journey.
Wow, I love it. I can't wait to continue the journey together. My last question for you, as always, is if you were to recommend a guest, if you started a podcast tomorrow, besides Avram Fried and Mordechai Ben David, who would be that person that you would say, you know what, let's get you on the chair behind a mic and let's talk and let's spread growth in this world? Who would that be? This is an absolute crazy, crazy idea. I love it already. But I don't think anybody really knows the story, including myself. Eli Lutz. Have you seen him the last 10 years? Get him on the phone. With a big yarmulke. You got to ask him. Have you seen him with a big yarmulke? Nope. He walks around with this crazy big white yarmulke. No. He is so individual, as you know. He's got his own personality. He doesn't care about anything or anyone. I mean, not like that. Meaning in a positive way. He's beyond it. Look at all his children. You know, now they started the Lutz band. The other brothers, I don't know if you've seen them on Instagram. And then of course Ben, his son, with Ben Lutz. You also have an uncle or something that just hit 101 years old or something, or Uncle your wife's... Jack. My wife's uncle. Yeah, absolutely incredible. I saw you post some things about him. Shalom, this has been a pleasure and an honor. Thank you to all our subscribers, our listeners. If you hung on till now and you're a super fan, we love you. We appreciate all the feedback. Keep it coming. Thank you to the Prime Source production team for all we're doing in the industry of senior care and more. We're excited to work together with you, and that's a wrap. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.